Hello, and welcome. Welcome to the Somnolent Shelf. You have found your way here to this quiet harbor, this sanctuary built of sound and stillness at the very edge of the waking world. There is nothing for you to do now, absolutely nowhere else you need to be. All that matters is your comfort, your rest. So, let your body begin its own journey, a journey into softness. Feel the true weight of the blankets, heavy and warm upon you. Feel the support of the pillow as it cradles your head. Allow your eyelids to close and feel the darkness behind them as a soft velvet curtain. Tonight we are going to drift. We will drift together on a long, slow current back into the waters of time. We are traveling to a vast, dark ocean under a ceiling of brilliant, cold, and silent stars. Our story is one of ice and steel and the steady, rhythmic breath of the sea. This is the story of the RMS Titanic. But this is not a story of panic. It is not a story of speed. We will tell it as it was meant to be told, as a somnolent, hypnotic epic, a 10-hour journey. We will explore every detail, every quiet moment, every texture. So breathe in slowly, and as you breathe out, let the day release its hold. Let us begin. Chapter 1. The apex of an era. Our story begins not in the cold, dark water, but in the vibrant, noisy air of Belfast. Imagine, if you can, the sound of industry, not as a cacophony, but as a distant, steady rhythm. The sound of 10,000 hammers, like a form of metallic rain. Here, in the great shipyards of Harland and Wolff, a giant was conceived. It was an idea before it was a thing, an idea of size, of strength, of a luxury the world had never known. For 3 long years, this idea took shape. We can imagine the keel, a spine of solid steel, laid down in the quiet morning light, and from it, ribs of metal grew upward toward the sky. Thousands of men, like ants on a steel mountain, moved with purpose. They heated rivets until they glowed orange-white and drove them home with hydraulic force. Each rivet a single, strong connection. Millions of them stitching the great plates of steel together, forming a skin, a hull, a fortress against the sea. She was designed to be a marvel, a testament to a gilded age, an age that believed in certainty. A quiet, steady giant. Now let us move forward in time. The giant is complete. She has moved from Belfast to the south of England. It is Wednesday, the 10th of April, 1912. We are in Southampton. The air is cool and damp. It smells of the sharp, clean salt of the English Channel and the earthy, sulfurous scent of coal smoke. The RMS Titanic rests against the dock. She is vast, silent, majestic. Let us truly try to understand her scale. She is a mountain of black steel, for city blocks long. Her 4 colossal funnels, painted a pale buff yellow, with black tops, reach towards a pale, overcast sky. They are so large a train could drive through one. She is not a ship. She is a piece of the city, a building that has decided to float. She is a promise of a new world. The passengers begin to arrive. It is not a crowd, but a slow, steady stream. We can observe them one by one. First-class passengers in their fine wool coats and elegant feathered hats. They walk quietly up the covered gangway. Their voices are muted, their steps muffled by the thick carpets. They are stepping into a different world, a world of profound and curated quiet. Let us follow them inside. Imagine the feeling of the thick, soft Axminster carpet under your feet. The pile is so deep your shoes almost sink into it. The air inside is warm. It smells of newness, of beeswax and French polish on rich mahogany, of the faint, clean scent of fresh linen and the distant, promising aroma of the kitchens. The light is golden. It comes from thousands of electric lamps, their bulbs glowing with soft, amber filaments. This light gleams on the polished oak of the grand staircase, on the intricate gilded carvings, on the brass fixtures and the subtle leaded glass of the windows. The great glass dome, far above, filters the gray daylight into something beautiful and serene. In second class, the comforts are still greater than most ocean liners of the day. The wood is oak, not mahogany. The carpets not quite as thick, but still a comfort. Cozy cabins, a library with deep, comfortable leather chairs, and the quiet, satisfying turning of newspaper pages. And in the third class, far below, near the waterline, the spaces are clean, bright, and simple. Pine-paneled walls painted white, long tables in the dining saloon. These spaces are not quiet. They are filled with the sound of hope, of families speaking in different languages, carrying their entire lives in wooden trunks. All of them, the first class, the second, the third, and the crew of 900, all of them are united by the low, steady vibration that we. Chapter 2: The Whispering Giant. The great ship has found her rhythm. The coast of Ireland, her final glimpse of land, has faded into a gray, somber mist. Now there is only the ocean, a vast, rolling, empty expanse, a desert of deep, shimmering, Atlantic blue. The Titanic is a small, warm, predictable world, a universe unto herself, complete and self-contained, moving steadily through the great blue empty one. Life on board settles into a peaceful, hypnotic routine, a rhythm dictated by the sun and the steady, reassuring pulse of the engines. Imagine the mornings. The sun rises late, chasing the ship from the east. The air is clean, sharp, and cold. It carries the clean, metallic taste of the sea. Passengers, wrapped in thick wool coats, stroll the long, wide promenade deck. A deck of polished teak, white and spotless. Their footsteps are muffled by the wood. The only sounds are the steady, reassuring thrum of the engines far below. The rush of water, cleaved by the sharp bow, and the distant, lonely cry of a seagull that has followed them from shore. Deck chairs of polished teak and woven cane are set out in long, neat rows. Stewards, in crisp white jackets, move quietly like ghosts. They unfold thick woolen blankets and tuck them around the passengers. They offer warm broth in porcelain cups or hot tea steaming in the cold air. Their voices are low and polite. The ship is a bastion of calm, a floating sanctuary of order and service. As the sun climbs high, the ship is a hive of gentle, quiet activity. Let us walk inside, away from the bright, cold wind. We enter the first-class lounge. It is a room copied from the Palace of Versailles. The walls are paneled in carved French walnut. The light streams in through tall, leaded glass windows, illuminating the dust motes, dancing slowly in the warm, still air. The scent is of old wood and beeswax, and the faint, sweet smell of cigar smoke from the adjoining room. Men sit in deep green velvet armchairs. They do not speak loudly. They murmur. They are reading newspapers delivered by the ship's own printing press. Women sit at elegant writing desks, penning letters on thick, cream-colored stationery, embossed with the White Star Line flag. In the corner, a string quartet plays light classical music. The notes from the violin and cello drift through the ornate room, mixing with the soft clink of porcelain teacups and the quiet, satisfying rustle of a turned page. Everything is designed for peace, but let us travel deeper. We leave the lounge and descend the grand staircase. Our hand slides down the polished bronze banister. Our feet sink into the thick red carpet. Down, past a deck and B-deck, past the opulent cabins, past C-deck, down, past the kitchens, heavy with the scent of baking bread and roasting meats. Down past the crew quarters, down into the very heart of the ship. Here in the engine room is a different world. It is not the chaotic, dirty place one might imagine. It is a cathedral of steel, vast and white painted, lit by bright, bare electric bulbs. The air is hot. It is humid and heavy with the clean, sharp scent of hot oil and steam. And the sound, it is not a noise. It is a presence, a deep, resonant, rhythmic power. The two great reciprocating engines stand 4 stories high. They are not loud. They are a profound rhythmic force. Great, polished pistons, thick as tree trunks, rising and falling in a slow, steady, powerful, and hypnotic dance. This is the heartbeat of the Titanic, a steady, pulsing, mechanical life, relentless, driving the ship forward, a symphony of controlled power, all to ensure that the teacup in the lounge for decks above never rattles. But the engines, these great rhythmic pistons, they are only half of the heart. They provide the motion, but the power, the lifeblood, comes from somewhere else. Let us walk forward through a watertight door into the boiler rooms. There are 6 boiler rooms in total, stretching for hundreds of feet along the bottom of the ship. The air here is different. It is thick. It is hot. A dry, intense, suffocating heat that seems to radiate from the very walls. The sound is the deep, deafening, continuous roar of 29 massive boilers. These are the lungs of the Titanic, vast, cylindrical tanks of steel, hissing and roaring as they turn water into high-pressure steam. And here, in this underworld of heat and noise, we find the stokers, the firemen. They are the true heart muscle of the ship. Men stripped to the waist, their bodies gleaming with sweat and coal dust. They move, not in a panic, but in a constant, grueling, rhythmic ballet. The clang of a steel door swung open. The blinding white-yellow glare of the furnace inside. The scrape of the long steel shovel against the floor. The heave of a dozen pounds of coal flung expertly into the inferno. Clang, scrape, heave, rest, clang, scrape, heave, rest. This is the rhythm that feeds the giant. 170 men working in shifts day and night to feed the fires that feed the steam that turns the engines that propels the ship through the cold, dark water. Imagine the contrast. Imagine these men working in temperatures of over 100 degrees, while just a few inches of steel plate separates them from the freezing black North Atlantic Ocean. Heat and cold, light and dark, order and power, all existing side by side in this magnificent moving city. Let us leave this place of fire. Let us ascend, up past the sleeping third-class cabins, up past the grand dining saloons, now dark and quiet, up through the smoking room, where the last lingering scent of cigar smoke hangs in the air, up onto the highest deck, the boat deck. We emerge into the night. It is late. The air is sharp and cold and tastes of salt. The sky is a deep, dark velvet. The passengers are asleep. The decks are empty. There is only the sound of the wind whistling softly through the network of wires and rigging, and the steady, deep thrum of the ship vibrating beneath our feet. We walk forward to a small, brightly lit cabin set just behind the bridge. A quiet, humming noise comes from within. This is the mind of the ship, the Marconi wireless room. Inside, it is warm. The room is small and functional, filled with equipment, dials and switches and coils of wire, and the centerpiece, the Marconi transmitter. Here, two young men, Jack Phillips, the senior operator, and Harold Bride, his junior. They sit wearing headphones, listening to the sound of the world. The air around them is filled with the sharp electric crackle of the telegraph, a constant stream of invisible whispers crossing the vast, empty ocean. ... It is the sound of human connection, of language reduced to pure electric pulses. Their job is not safety, not primarily. Their job is convenience. The wireless is a marvel, a luxury, a toy for the wealthy passengers in first class. All day, Jack Phillips and Harold Bride have been sending messages for them. Stock trades telegraphed to New York. Dinner plans sent to friends in London. Greetings and small talk flung invisibly across the cold, empty ocean. The operators are busy. They are employees not of the White Star Line, but of the Marconi Company. Their work is judged by the revenue they collect. The passenger messages are piling up. The click, click, click of the telegraph key is a constant, sharp, metallic sound, a sound of commerce. But throughout the day, Saturday, and now Sunday, the 14th of April, other whispers arrive. They are not for the passengers. They are from other ships nearby in the same cold, dark stretch of water. Messages from the Mesaba, from the Baltic, from the America. They are brief, impersonal, warnings. The telegraph crackles. ... Ice, a simple word. Have passed large icebergs. Field ice reported. These are not alarms. They are not urgent. They are simple geographic facts. Facts of the North Atlantic in springtime. Ice is common, expected. Jack Phillips, the senior operator, is tired. He has been working for hours. The passenger messages must get through. He takes the ice warning from the ship Mesaba, a crucial warning that describes a vast field of ice directly in the Titanic's path. He writes it down on a small paper slip, but the message is not addressed to the Titanic. It is a general warning for all ships. He is busy. The nearby station at Cape Race is loud in his ears. He files the message. He puts the paper on a hook. It is a whisper that has not been heard. It is a fact that has not been understood. The great ship, this whispering giant, steams on, unaware. Now, let us leave the small, warm, busy cabin. Let us go back outside onto the open deck. The day is ending. Saturday has turned to Sunday, and Sunday is now fading into night. The sun, which had been bright in a clear blue sky, begins to set. It is a sunset that those who survived would remember for the rest of their lives. A sunset of impossible, vivid beauty. The sun dips below the flat, calm horizon, a perfect orb of liquid gold and fire. It stains the sky with colors of deep, profound, violet and rose and pale cold green. The air, which had been sharp, now grows colder. A deep, penetrating, biting cold. Cold that feels different. Cold that feels heavy, like the presence of something vast and ancient. 10,000 credits remaining. And then comes the night. It is a night unlike any other. There is no moon, no pale guiding light in the sky, but the sky itself is ablaze. Without the moon, and with the air so clean and cold and clear, the stars are overwhelming. More stars than anyone on the ship can remember seeing. A cold, glittering, diamond-like dust stretching from one black horizon to the other. The Milky Way is a bright, shimmering ribbon of celestial light. It is beautiful, and it is cold, a distant, silent, cosmic beauty. And the sea which had been rolling and lively, begins to change. It grows still, quieter, flatter. Captain Smith, a man with decades of experience on this very route, has never seen it like this. It becomes a sea of glass, a dark, polished obsidian mirror, perfectly unnaturally still. It reflects every single glittering star, so that the ship, this great, warm, lighted giant, feels as if it is gliding, not on water, but through outer space. Sailing through a void of stars, the lack of waves, the lack of wind, makes the ship feel faster. The steady thrum of the engines feels more powerful. But this stillness is deceptive. It is a sign of a vast field of ice nearby. The ice calms the water, stills the ocean swell. This perfect, beautiful calm is itself a warning that is not read. Inside the ship, the cold is forgotten. The dark void is held at bay by thick steel plates and windows of leaded glass. Inside is a cocoon of warmth and light and life. It is Sunday evening. Dinner is finished. In the first-class dining saloon, the most opulent room on the ocean, it was a lavish 10-course affair. Now the passengers disperse. Let us follow them. We can hear the sound of the orchestra. The 8 musicians, led by Wallace Hartley, are playing in the first-class lounge. They are not playing grand symphonies. They are playing light music, waltzes, rags, music from the popular shows. The sound is gentle, civilized, designed to be a pleasant background to conversation and the soft clink of coffee cups. The melodies drift through the ornate rooms, muted by the thick carpets and the velvet curtains. In the first-class smoking room, a space only for men, the air is thick with the rich, sweet scent of expensive cigars. The walls are dark, polished mahogany, inlaid with mother of pearl. Men sit in deep button leather armchairs. They sip brandy. They murmur about business, about politics. A game of cards is underway at a corner table. The atmosphere is one of profound and unshakable masculine security. The world is as it should be. In the second-class library, it is quiet. Passengers read beneath the soft electric lights. And in third class, in the general room, there is life. Fiddle is playing. The sound is not a gentle waltz, but a lively, foot-stomping jig. There is laughter and dancing, a celebration of the new life that they are all sailing toward. It is a perfect, peaceful Sunday evening. Warmth, light, music, hope, and all the while, the great ship glides silently through the sea of glass, deeper and deeper into the cold, silent, waiting night, deeper into the ice field that the wireless operators were too busy to announce. But now it is growing late. The hour is approaching 11. The music in all parts of the ship begins to fade. The orchestra plays its final tune. The card games in the smoking room are finished. Passengers, feeling the hypnotic calm of the ship and the profound, steady rhythm of the engines, retire to their cabins. They prepare for sleep. They change into warm, flannel pajamas and heavy nightgowns. They pull back the thick duvets and slide into beds of soft, clean linen. They are safe. They are warm. They are comfortable. The great ship is their cradle, a steady, rhythmic fortress of light, gliding through the dark. One by one, the lights in the cabin windows go out. The passengers drift off to sleep. The ship is now quiet. The decks are empty. The lounges are dark. Only the crew keeps the watch. On the bridge, the officers peer into a darkness so profound it seems solid. In the crow's nest, the lookouts stamp their feet, trying to stay warm, their eyes straining, scanning the black, glassy water for any sign of danger. They have been told to watch for ice, but they have no binoculars. They were left behind in Southampton. They must rely only on their eyes. And on a moonless night, against a black sea, an iceberg is a phantom, a piece of the darkness that is simply darker. And now comes the final whisper, the last crucial missed connection. Not far away, perhaps only 10 or 20 miles, another ship, the SS Californian, has stopped. Her captain, Stanley Lord, has seen the vast field of ice and decided it is too dangerous. His ship is now surrounded by it, waiting for daylight. In the Californian's asterisk small wireless room, the lone operator, Cyril Evans, is about to go to bed. His shift is over. As a final, helpful gesture, he adjusts his set and calls the Titanic. He can hear her, loud in his ears. She is very, very close. He does not use a formal prefix. He just sends a message. I say, "Old man, we are stopped and surrounded by ice." In the Titanic's wireless room, Jack Phillips is exhausted. He is stressed. The passenger message backlog is still large. He is trying to send these messages to the loud, powerful shore station at Cape Race. Suddenly, the Californian's asterisk message blasts into his ears. It is so loud, it hurts. It is like someone shouting directly into his head while he is trying to listen to a faint whisper from far away. He is angry. He does not hear the content of the message. He only hears the interruption. He taps his key, a sharp, impatient electric spark. "Shut up. Shut up. I am busy. I am working Cape Race." In the Californian's cabin, Cyril Evans hears the sharp rebuke. He is not offended. He just shrugs. He has tried. The great Titanic is not interested. It is 11:30 at night. He has done his job. He takes off his headphones, fills the room with silence. He turns off his set, and he goes to bed. The connection is broken. The final whisper has faded. The Titanic is now alone. She is sailing at full speed, deaf and blind, into a trap of ice. a trap that is now only minutes away, and her passengers and most of her crew are safe and warm and fast asleep. Chapter 3: The Shudder. The ship is quiet. The last lingering notes of the orchestra have long since faded. The passengers sleep. They are warm and safe in their cabins, drifting in the soft, dark cradle of the deep. The only sound is the steady, low, rhythmic thrum of the engines, the heartbeat of the great ship propelling her at over 22 knots through the black, silent, glassy water. The air is colder now. It is a cold that is absolute, a deep, penetrating, biting cold that sinks into the steel and coats the railings with a fine white frost. The temperature of the water is 28 degrees. Below freezing, the temperature of the air is just above. High above the deck, in the crow's nest, two men stand watch, Frederick Fleet and Reginald Lee. They are high above the warmth and the light. They are alone in the wind and the cold and the stars. They stamp their feet on the small wooden platform. Their hands are numb. Their faces are raw from the wind. Their eyes water from the cold and the strain. They are scanning the dark horizon, the line where the black, starry sky meets the black, starry sea. They are looking for a shadow, a piece of the darkness that is simply darker. They have no binoculars. The simple, crucial tool is locked in a cabinet back in Southampton. They must rely only on their eyes. On the bridge, it is quiet. First Officer William Murdoch is now in command. He is a tall, strong, experienced seaman. He stands in the enclosed, dark wheelhouse. The only light is the soft yellow glow of the compass binnacle. He too is staring into the darkness. The ship glides forward, fast and silent, too fast, too silent. This glassy, calm sea is the worst possible condition. On a normal night, the ocean swell would break against an iceberg, creating a ring of white, visible foam. But tonight, there is no swell. There is no foam. An iceberg will be invisible until it is too late. The time is 11:39 p.m. Frederick Fleet in the crow's nest squints. He leans forward. He sees it, a shape, a blur, a mass that is darker than the dark. It is small at first, like a shadow, and then it is growing, fast, looming, directly in their path. He reaches for the bronze lanyard. He pulls the bell 3 times, a sharp, clear, shattering sound. Clang, clang, clang. The sound cuts through the still night air, a sound of pure, urgent warning. He grabs the telephone that connects him to the bridge. His voice is urgent but steady. Iceberg. Right ahead. On the bridge, 6th Officer Moody hears the words. He repeats them to First Officer Murdoch. But Murdoch has already seen it. He has stepped out onto the wing of the bridge, and he sees the dark mass towering over the bow. He shouts the order, hard as starboard. It is the old command. It means turn the ship to the left. The helmsman, Robert Hickens, spins the wheel. Murdoch lunges for the engine telegraph. He pulls the levers. Full astern, a bell rings deep in the engine room, a sound the engineers had never expected to hear. The great ship begins its slow, agonizing turn. A vessel of 66,000 tons, moving at 22 knots, cannot stop, cannot turn on a dime. It is a battle of physics, of momentum. The bow begins to swing, slowly, painfully slowly, to the left. It seems, for a moment, just a moment, that she might miss it, that she might just glide past. The bow swings to the left. The giant, black, mass of ice glides past the very front of the ship. It misses the stem. Frederick Fleet, in the crow's nest, lets out a breath. He thinks they have missed it, a close shave. But the iceberg is a mountain. Most of its mass, its jagged, frozen teeth, are hidden beneath the calm, black water. The ship is still turning. It is too late. The side of the ship, the starboard side, scrapes against the submerged underwater spur of the ice. It is not a crash. It is not a violent, loud collision. It is a sound that many would struggle to describe. Faint grinding shudder, a long ripping tearing sound, like a giant, rough cloth being torn, or the sound of a heavy wagon rumbling over a cobblestone street far away. A dull, sickening grinding. It lasts for perhaps 10 seconds, but it feels like an eternity. In the first-class smoking room, where a few men are still finishing their drinks, they feel the vibration. It is slight, but it is wrong. It is a tremor that runs the length of the hull. The liquid in their glasses shimmers. A chandelier tinkles softly. They look up from their conversation, confused, for only a moment. Sir Cosmo Duff Gordon remarks, "That must have been a heavy swell," but he knows the sea is perfectly flat. The tremor stops. The ship glides on. Their conversation resumes. In the third-class cabins, far forward and low near the bow, the sound is louder. The sensation is stronger. Passengers are jolted in their beds. It is a heavy, grinding thump. They sit up in the dark, confused, listening. What was that? On the upper decks, as the iceberg glides past the side of the ship, it scrapes along the hull. Great loose chunks of ice, broken by the impact, tumble down onto the forward starboard well deck. It is a strange, quiet snowfall. A few passengers, awakened by the noise, step out of their cabins onto the promenade deck. The air is colder than they can imagine. They see the stars and the flat, black sea, and they see the strange white ice scattered across the wooden planks. They pick it up. They laugh. It is a curiosity. They do not know, they cannot know, that just 30 feet below them, out of sight, The cold, dark Atlantic Ocean is beginning to pour violently into the ship, into the first 5 of her watertight compartments, and then comes the most jarring change of all, a sound that awakens more passengers than the collision itself, the sound of silence. The engines have stopped. Deep in the engine room, the bells from the bridge have rung. The engineers have shut down the great reciprocating hearts. The pistons slow and stop. The vibration, the steady, constant, reassuring thrum that has been the soundtrack of their entire journey for 4 days is gone. The silence is profound, heavy, abnormal, unnatural. This silence, this sudden, deep stillness is what tells them more than any alarm that something is terribly wrong. The whispering giant has stopped whispering. The silence is a void. It is a heavy, uncomfortable blanket. Passengers who had slept soundly through the faint, grinding impact are now stirring in their beds. They are awakened by the absence of sound, the absence of the steady, rhythmic pulse that had lulled them to sleep. They lie still in the dark in their warm cabins, listening. Why has the ship stopped? On the bridge in the dark, Captain Smith, E.J. Smith, the Commodore of the line, appears. He had been asleep in his chart room just behind the wheelhouse. He, too, was awakened by the faint shudder and the silence. He walks in his pajamas and overcoat onto the bridge. His voice is calm, collected, the voice of a man with 40 years of command. He looks at First Officer Murdoch. "Mr. Murdoch, what have we struck?" "An iceberg, sir," Murdoch replies. His voice is steady. "I put her hard a starboard and ran the engines full astern, but she was too close. She scraped along the side." The starboard side. "Close the emergency doors," Captain Smith commands. "The doors are already closed, sir," Murdoch says. He had already pulled the lever that sealed the watertight compartments in the lower decks. The captain is quiet. He understands the physics of his ship. He understands the danger of ice. He sends for the ship's carpenter, Mr. Hutchinson. "Sound the ship," he orders. A simple command. "Go down, check the levels, see if we are taking on water." And then he gives another order, a quiet but crucial instruction. He sends a steward to find Mr. Thomas Andrews. Thomas Andrews, the ship's architect, the man who had designed every inch of this magnificent vessel. He was on board for her maiden voyage, taking notes, observing, planning small improvements. He, more than any man alive, knew the Titanic. He knew her strengths, and he knew her one secret weakness. The steward hurries down through the quiet, carpeted hallways to cabin A36, a luxurious, first-class stateroom. He knocks. Mr. Andrews was fast asleep. He had not even felt the impact. He is awakened by the steward. "The captain needs you on the bridge, sir." Andrews dresses quickly. He throws a coat over his pajamas. He does not yet understand. He assumes it is a minor issue, problem with a generator or a pump. He walks briskly up the grand staircase towards the bridge, towards his captain, towards his destiny. While he walks, the first terrifying reports are coming back. The carpenter is in the lower decks, and he can hear a sound, the sound of water. Not a drip, not a leak, but a torrent. He makes his way to the forward mailroom. He opens the door, and he sees it. Dark, freezing, Atlantic water, swirling around the base of the mail sacks. It is rising, and it is rising fast. He turns and runs back towards the bridge. The ship is bleeding, and it is bleeding fast. Thomas Andrews steps onto the quiet, dark bridge. He sees Captain Smith. He sees the anxious face of the carpenter. "Mr. Andrews." The captain's voice is low and steady. "We have struck ice. The carpenter reports we are making water." In the forward mailroom, Andrews is a practical man, a man of blueprints and steel. He does not panic. He nods. "We must go down," he says simply. "We must see." He and the captain turn. They leave the bridge and begin their descent into the great silent ship. They walk down the grand staircase. The ship is still. The engines are silent, but as they descend deck by deck, they feel something. A change. The carpet is no longer perfectly level. There is a slight, almost imperceptible tilt, a downward slope towards the bow. It is so faint you might think it is your imagination, but it is real. The ship's nose is heavy, and there is something else, a draft, a current of cold air that was not there before. It is coming up from the lower decks, an air that smells of the deep, the dark, the ancient, icy sea. The ship's wound is breathing. They do not need to go all the way to the mailroom. They descend to F deck, and they can hear it, the sound, not a drip, not a leak, but the sound of a river, the sound of a waterfall, the violent, roaring sound of the North Atlantic pouring into the hull. They make their way to the top of a metal spiral staircase. It leads down to boiler room number 6. They look down, and they see the firemen, the stokers. They are not shoveling coal. They are waiting. They are wading in 2 feet of black, freezing water. It is swirling around their knees as they watch a great cold wave bursts through the side where the ship was wounded. The fires in the great furnaces are hit by the water. They erupt with a great, deafening cloud of steam, terrible hissing roar. The stokers are forced to retreat. The room is lost. Thomas Andrews stands very still. He watches. He listens. He is a man of mathematics. His mind is a blueprint. He knows about boiler room number 6. He has seen it. He knows from the carpenter about boiler room number 5. 2 is filling. He knows about the cargo hold and the mail room and the forepeak. He does not need a pencil. He does not need paper. He is doing the calculation in his head, the terrible, quiet arithmetic. He knows the fatal secret of his own magnificent design, the watertight bulkheads, the great steel walls that are supposed to keep the ship safe. They do not go all the way to the top. They stop at E-deck. He designed it this way. It was standard. It was safe. The ship was designed to float with any 2 of her 16 watertight compartments flooded. She could even float with any 3 of her first compartments flooded. She just might survive with 4. But the iceberg, this phantom, this spur of ice, hidden beneath the black, glassy water, it did not hit the ship head on. It scraped, it slit, it opened the first 5 compartments, one after another. The calculation is complete. It is simple. It is brutal. It is irrefutable. 5 compartments are breached. The ship is designed to float with 4, not 5. Thomas Andrews turns from the hissing, steaming roar of Boiler Room 5. He looks at Captain Smith. His face is pale, but his voice is calm. "We must return to the bridge, sir," he says. Quietly, they turn. They begin the long climb back up through the ship, up past the sleeping passengers, up past the velvet carpets and the gilded carvings. Each step they can feel the slight but sickening downward tilt. The ship is heavy, heavy with the weight of the Atlantic. They reach the quiet, dark sanctuary of the bridge. The time is now approximately midnight. It has been only 20 minutes since the impact. 20 short, quiet minutes. They stand near the chart table. Captain Smith looks at the man who built his ship. He does not need to ask the question. He can see the answer in Andrew's eyes. But he asks it. His voice is a whisper. "How long, Mr. Andrews? How long do we have?" Thomas Andrews unrolls a blueprint onto the table. His hand is steady. He points. "Here, Captain," he says. His voice is the voice of a lecturer, a man explaining a simple problem of physics. The sea is in the forepeak. Cargo hold 1, cargo hold 2, the mail room, and boiler room 6, and boiler room 5. He traces a line with his finger. That is 5 compartments. As the bow sinks, he continues, his voice quiet and precise. "The water in these compartments will rise. When it reaches the top of the bulkhead at E-deck," he pauses, "it will spill over into the next compartment." He describes it as if he is describing filling an ice cube tray. One section fills and spills into the next and the next, and so on, he says, one after another. There is no stopping it. Captain Smith stands very still, the commodore of the line. The old steady, Captain. He understands. His beautiful ship, his new, magnificent, unsinkable ship, is doomed. She is a piece of machinery that is already dead. She just does not know it yet. How long? The captain asks again. His voice is thick. Thomas Andrews looks at the blueprint. He looks at the slight downward tilt of the floor. He calculates the volume of water, the rate of flow, the displacement. His mind is a machine of terrible truth. He looks up. He meets the captain's eyes. An hour and a half, he says, possibly two, not much more. An hour and a half, 2 hours. The Titanic, this mountain of steel, this floating city, this marvel of the modern age, has at most 120 minutes to live. And on board are 2,200 souls. And on her decks are lifeboats for 1,100. Half. The silence on the bridge is total. It is the silence of a terrible and final understanding. The ship is going down. And there are not enough boats. The arithmetic is complete. Captain Smith nods, just once. A slow, heavy gesture. The weight of 2,200 lives is on his shoulders. The quiet for decades of his perfect career are over. He is a man awoken into a nightmare, but he is still the captain. He turns. He walks briskly from the enclosed bridge a few steps to the small Marconi wireless room. The door is open. He steps inside. The room is warm and loud with the sharp electric crackle of the transmitter. Jack Phillips, the senior operator, is still working. He is still sending the backlog of passenger messages. He looks up, surprised to see the captain. "We have struck an iceberg," Captain Smith says. His voice is low, steady, but all the life has gone out of it. "We are badly damaged. You must send the call for assistance." Phillips stops tapping. He looks at his junior officer, Harold Bride, who was asleep in the bunk. They are both now wide awake. "Which call, sir?" Phillips asks. "The regulation call for distress." "The regulation call," Smith confirms. "CQD, CQD, come quick, distress." It is the call that no wireless operator ever wants to send. Phillips places his hand on the telegraph key. His fingers begin to move. A new sound cuts through the night. Dot dash dot, dash dash dot dot, CQD. The call goes out. A desperate electric spark, flinging itself into the cold, starlit void, hoping that another ship is listening. Captain Smith turns and leaves the small, warm room. He walks back to his officers on the bridge. The time is now 12:05 a.m. It is time to wake the passengers, but it must be done with perfect calm. Panic is the enemy. Panic will kill them faster than the water. He gives the order. "Rouse the passengers. Tell them," he says, his voice barely a whisper, "to put on their warm clothing and their life belts and to assemble quietly on the boat deck." He looks at his officers. No alarms. No panic. Be calm. Be quiet. The stewards, the men in white jackets, trained in service, in comfort, in politeness, are given the order. They do not fully understand. They do not know about the 2 hours. They do not know about the 5 flooded compartments. They just know the captain has given an order. And so they begin. Down in the warm, carpeted hallways of the sleeping ship, a new sound, a soft, polite knocking. Knock, knock, knock on a solid mahogany door. The steward waits. The door opens. A sleepy passenger in a silk dressing gown. "Excuse me, sir." The steward's voice is apologetic, calm. The captain's compliments. He requests that you dress warmly, put on your life belt, and go to the boat deck. The passenger is confused, annoyed. Why? What is the matter? "A precaution, sir," the steward says. "We have had a slight accident. There is no danger. A precaution." This scene is repeated dozens, hundreds of times. A quiet, polite, almost absurd awakening. A gentle invitation to a boat drill in the middle of the freezing night. Many passengers laugh. They are annoyed. This is an inconvenience. They refuse. They go back to bed. They do not know. They cannot possibly know the truth, but slowly, like a slow, reluctant tide, the ship begins to wake up. While the stewards are knocking on cabin doors, Captain Smith on the bridge gives the next and most terrible order, the order that confirms the truth. "Uncover the boats." His voice is quiet, but firm. "Get the lifeboats swung out." The officers on the bridge hear the command. Chief Officer Wild, First Officer Murdoch, Second Officer Lightoller. They are professional seamen. They understand what this means. This is not a drill. They move to their assigned stations. Their voices now cut through the cold night air. "Uncover the boats. Clear away the boats." Sailors, the deck crew begin to move. They are awakened from their bunks. They run up to the high boat deck. The deck that was just an hour ago a place for quiet, moonless stargazing. It is now a place of urgent, quiet work. The lifeboats are nested in their chocks. 16 large wooden lifeboats and 4 collapsible canvas boats. They are covered by thick white canvas tarpaulins. The canvas is stiff, frozen by the bitter cold. The sailors pull at the ropes. Their fingers are numb, stiff. They fumble with the knots. The work is slow, agonizingly slow. The canvas is unwieldy. It cracks and groans as it is pulled back, revealing the clean white planks of the boats beneath. As the covers come off, the passengers begin to arrive, slowly, in small groups. They are confused. They are cold. They are holding their thick, awkward, cork-filled life belts. Some are still in their nightgowns and dressing robes. Some have dressed fully in their finest, warmest clothes. They stand in small, huddled groups by the entrances, watching. They see the sailors working. They see the officers shouting, and they see the boats being prepared. And for the first time, a new feeling begins to spread, a quiet, cold, unspoken feeling. This is not a precaution. This is real. But still, there is no panic. There is a strange sense of disbelief, of absurdity. This is the Titanic, the unsinkable ship, the ship that cannot be in danger. To get into a small, open, wooden boat in the middle of the freezing, dark Atlantic seems like madness. Seems more dangerous to leave the ship than to stay. The ship is warm. The ship is lit. The ship is steady. It is a great solid island of safety. Cannot possibly be sinking, but it is. The tilt of the deck is no longer imaginary. It is real. It is noticeable. The bow is sinking, slowly, steadily. The orchestra has now assembled. Wallace Hartley has gathered his men. They too are in their uniforms with their life belts on. He chooses a spot in the first-class lounge near the grand staircase, and he lifts his violin. The men raise their instruments, and in the middle of this cold, confusing night, a new sound, music, not a hymn, not a sad dirge, but a light, cheerful ragtime tune, the same light music they had played just hours before. It is music to calm, to soothe, to maintain the illusion of normalcy, a strange, brave, surreal soundtrack to the impossible. The time is now 12:30 am. 50 minutes since the impact. The tilt of the deck is undeniable. The bow is sinking. The order is given by Captain Smith, a tradition of the sea, an order that is both chivalrous and terrible. Women and children first. On the starboard side, First Officer Murdoch is in charge. He is an efficient man. He interprets the order. Women and children first. And then, if there is room, the men may follow. He must get the boats away. He moves to lifeboat number 7. It is the first boat to be ready. It is swung out on its davits. It hangs level with the deck. Over the dark, empty void, a small wooden ark in the vast, cold night. Women and children. Murdoch's voice is loud. Any women and children, please step forward into the boat. There is hesitation. The passengers stand back. They look at the small boat. They look at the dark 60-foot drop to the black, icy water. And then they look at the deck, the solid, wide, illuminated deck of the RMS Titanic, the unsinkable ship, the ship that is warm, the ship that is lit. Feels like madness to leave the solid steel island for that small wooden shell. No one moves. A young couple, Mr. and Mrs. Dickinson Bishop, are pushed forward. The wife is hesitant. A sailor grabs her arm. "It's only a precaution, madam," he says, his voice reassuring. "Please, step in." She is lifted over the railing and dropped unceremoniously into the boat. She stumbles. Her husband is told to follow. He gets in. A few more women are found. They are urged and pushed forward. They too are put into the boat. There is no panic. There is instead a strange, polite reluctance, a surreal, quiet negotiation. The boat is designed to hold 65 people. Murdoch looks around. The deck is still mostly empty. The passengers are still huddled near the stairways, watching, not believing. He cannot wait. He must get the boats away from the ship. He sees that no more women are coming forward. "Any more ladies?" he calls. Silence. "Very well. Lower away." The sailors begin to turn the cranks. The boat, lifeboat number 7, with only 28 people on board, a boat built for 65, begins its slow, jerky descent down into the darkness, the first of the lifeboats to leave the ship. It is 12:45 a.m., 1 hour after the impact. The Titanic has 1 hour and 35 minutes left, and the first boat is half empty. While First Officer Murdoch was struggling with the reluctance of the passengers on the starboard side, a different scene was unfolding on the port side of the ship. Here, Second Officer Charles Lightoller was in command. Lightoller was a man of the sea, a man of discipline, of rules. He too had heard the captain's order: women and children first. But he interpreted this order differently. He interpreted it literally. To him, it did not mean women and children first, and then men if there is room. It meant women and children only. He was in charge of lifeboat number 6. It was swung out over the dark, cold water. He too called for passengers. Women and children, this side, into the boat, and here the same reluctance, the same surreal disbelief. The women did not want to go. They clung to their husbands, to the perceived safety of the solid steel deck. The deck that was warm, the deck that was lit, the deck that was undeniably sinking. The tilt was more pronounced now, a noticeable downward slope. A woman was urged forward, Margaret Molly Brown. She was a wealthy, first-class passenger, a strong, forceful woman. She was helped into the boat. Another woman, Mrs. Lucille Carter, was hesitant. Her husband stood beside her. Lightoller gestured for her to get in. She refused. She did not want to leave her husband. He, Mr. Carter, did not argue. He simply put his hands on his wife and firmly placed her into the boat. "It is for the best," he said. His voice was calm. More women were found, pushed, urged, cajoled into the small wooden craft. The boat was still mostly empty. Lightoller looked around. His eyes scanned the deck for more women. There were none coming forward. He saw a young boy, a 13-year-old boy, a child. He was allowed in. The boat, built for 65, had perhaps 25 people. Lightoller needed men to row the boat. He looked around for sailors. He could find only one. He called out to the crowd, "We need another seaman. Can anyone here handle a boat?" A man stepped forward. He was a Canadian named Arthur Puchin. He was a first-class passenger, a yachtsman. "I can handle a boat," he said. "I am a yachtsman." Lightoller looked at him. He was a passenger. He was a man, but he could row. "If you are sailor enough to get to that boat," Lightoller said, "then get in." The boat was already swung out over the dark void. Puchin climbed the railing. He grabbed the ropes, and he swung himself hand over hand down and dropped into the boat. A dangerous and desperate act. Lightoller looked into the boat. It was still so empty, but he was a man of rules. No more women were coming, and he would not allow men. He gave the order, "Lower away," and lifeboat number 6, like number 7 on the other side, began its slow, jerky descent into the black, icy mirror of the sea. Another boat, more than half empty. The time was just before 1 a.m. While the lifeboats, these small white arcs of wood, were slowly, awkwardly descending into the dark. Captain Smith, his face pale and grim, returned once more to the small Marconi room. Jack Phillips was still tapping frantically, "CQD, CQD," sending the call out into the void. He had received a reply from a ship, the Frankfurt, but it was far, too far. "What are you sending?" the captain asked. His voice was heavy. "CQD, sir," Phillips replied. Harold Bride, the junior operator who was now fully dressed, had an idea, a dark and practical joke. "Send SOS, he suggested. "It's the new call, and it may be your last chance to send it." Phillips smiled, a quick, faint, tired smile. He nodded. His hand returned to the key. He began to tap the new, simpler call. ... dash dash dash, ... SOS, SOS, CQD. From MGY, he added the ship's position, and then a new, more desperate message. "We are sinking by the head. We require immediate assistance. We are putting passengers into the boats." And far away, 58 long, dark miles away, another ship, the Cunard liner RMS Carpathia, was sailing south. Her wireless operator, Harold Cottam, was tired. His shift was over. He was, in fact, already half undressed for bed. But by a simple miracle of fate, he kept his headphones on. He thought he might listen for any last messages. And he heard the call. He heard the Titanic. "SOS, we are sinking." He ran. He did not wait. He ran to his captain's cabin, Captain Arthur Rostron. He woke his captain. "Sir," he said, breathless, The Titanic is sending the distress signal. She is sinking. Captain Rostron was a man of prayer and a man of action. He did not question. He gave the orders. Turn the ship around. The Carpathia began its turn. She was a slow ship. 14 knots was her maximum. But that night, Captain Rostron pushed her. He diverted all steam to the engines. He turned off the heating. He posted extra lookouts. And he began to race through the same dark, icy field towards a ship that he knew he could not reach. Hope was now moving, but it was for long hours away, and the Titanic had less than one. Back on the sloping deck of the Titanic, the mood is changing. The time is now well after 1 a.m. The polite disbelief is fading. The tilt is no longer slight. It is steep. It is hard to walk uphill. The cheerful ragtime music from the orchestra is starting to sound thin, brittle, desperate. A new, darker sound is emerging. The sound of the ship itself, a deep, rumbling, groaning from within as the steel begins to strain. 10,000 credits remaining. But all of this, the polite reluctance, the string orchestra, the officers in their pressed uniforms, this is the story of the upper decks, of first and second class. It is a story of relative calm, of order. Let us travel down, down past the grand staircase, down past the dining saloons, down into the lower levels of the ship, into the areas known as steerage, the home of the third-class passengers. Here there is no mahogany. There are no velvet carpets. The walls are white-painted pine. The floors are bare. The hallways are long, narrow, and confusing. A labyrinth, a maze. And here the impact was not a faint shudder. It was a jolt, a metallic, screaming grind. These passengers were awakened first, and they were the first to feel the water. They too were told to get dressed, to put on their life belts, but they were not politely guided by personal stewards. They were shouted at, banged on the door. Get up, get your belts on. Many did not speak English. They were Italian, Swedish, Irish, Finnish. They did not understand the words. They only understood the urgency, the fear. They gathered their children, their mothers, their fathers. They poured out of their small, cramped cabins into the long, white hallways. They began to move upwards, towards the decks, towards the air, and they were met with gates, iron, steel, barriers, gates that were designed by law to keep the third-class passengers separate from the first and second, to prevent the spread of disease, a law of quarantine, of class. And now, in the crucial dying minutes of the ship, those gates were locked. Stewards stood guard. Wait here, they were told. The order has not come to let you up. Wait, be patient. But the ship was tilting. The water was rising. They could hear it. They could feel it through the soles of their shoes, a cold, seeping dampness. Panic, a real, cold panic, began to set in, not the polite disbelief of the upper decks, but the raw primal fear of being trapped, of being forgotten. A few found their way. They knew the ship, or they were lucky. They climbed ladders. They forced open doors. They emerged breathless onto the boat deck like diverse surfacing from a deep, dark world. They emerged into the cold, starlit night, and they saw the boats, the lifeboats that were already leaving, half empty, back on the high boat deck. The slope is now severe. It is like standing on the roof of a slowly sinking house. The orchestra is still playing. The cheerful ragtime has stopped. The music now is simpler, slower. Hymns, calm, steady melodies that float strangely in the cold, starlit air. Captain Smith knows that the wireless signals are invisible. He needs a visual, a cry for help that can be seen. He gives another order: fire the rockets. Fire the distress signals. Quartermaster George Rowe retrieves the box. He takes out a long white rocket. He places it in the socket at the edge of the bridge wing. He lights the fuse. A loud, sharp whoosh, a sound that cuts through the groaning of the ship. The rocket screams upward, up into the black, starry sky, climbs higher and higher, 800 feet, and then it explodes. A brilliant, blinding flash of white light. It illuminates the entire ship, the decks, the lifeboats, the faces of the passengers all turned upwards. And then 12 white stars burst from the center and hang for a moment in the sky before drifting slowly down like tears into the dark, calm sea. For the passengers, this is a moment of hope. Rockets, signals. This means rescue. This means other ships are nearby. They are saved. They cheer. A thin, wavering sound. But they do not know the code of the sea. A distress rocket is always white. These are white. It is a desperate cry for help. And it is seen, 10, perhaps 12 miles away, on the dark, still bridge of the SS Californian, the ship that is stopped in the ice, the ship whose wireless operator is fast asleep. The officers on her bridge see the lights. They see a large ship on the horizon, stopped, and they see the white rockets, one after another. "Look," a junior officer says, "that ship is firing rockets." The captain, Stanley Lord, is awakened. He looks. "Are they company signals?" he asks. "A company communicating with its sister ships." "I don't know, sir," the officer replies, "but they are all white." White, the distress call. But Captain Lord is cautious, tired. He does not believe it It is too impossible. He orders his men to try to signal the ship with their Morse lamp. A small, blinking light. They try. They receive no reply. And so, on the bridge of the Californian, they do nothing. They just watch. As the great lighted ship on the horizon fires her white rockets, one by one, and begins to sink. Back on the Titanic, the rockets fade. The brief cheer dies. The realization is setting in. No ship is coming. The rockets were not answered. The hope fades, and the tilt of the deck grows steeper. The time is running out. Chapter 4, The Slow Descent. The time is now approximately 1:40 a.m. The ship has less than 40 minutes, and the great steel island is no longer an island. The bow, the entire front section of the ship is gone, swallowed by the black, glassy ocean. The sea is no longer a distant threat. It is here. It is climbing the decks. It is lapping at the base of the bridge. The tilt is no longer a gentle incline. It is a slope, a steep, dark cliff. It is difficult to stand, to walk. Passengers cling to the railings, to the walls of the deckhouses, to anything that is solid. The ship is unmistakably sinking, and it is sinking fast. The orchestra is still playing, but their music is thin, brittle, almost inaudible beneath the new, dominant sound. The sound of the ship itself, a constant, deep, thunderous rumble, a groaning that comes from deep within the steel soul of the vessel. It is the sound of a mountain collapsing in slow motion. A terrible low bass note as everything inside breaks free. Furniture, pianos, trunks, china, tons of coal from the bunkers, all sliding and crashing down towards the flooded bow. Terrible internal avalanche. The polite reluctance to enter the lifeboats is gone. It is replaced by a new, desperate, frantic energy. The illusion of civilization has cracked. A crowd now surges around the few remaining boats. The order, women and children first, is no longer a matter of chivalry. It is a desperate attempt to maintain any control. On the starboard side, First Officer Murdoch is trying to load the last of the collapsible boats. Collapsible sea. The crowd is thick. A rush of men, both passengers and crew, desperate, try to storm the boat. Murdoch shouts, "Stand back! Stand back!" He holds his revolver in the air. It is women and children only. Get back! The crowd surges. A sharp, cracking sound. A gunshot. A warning. The crowd falls back. Just for a moment, it is enough. A few women and children are pushed into the boat. The boat is lowered. 2 is only half full. The time is now South 2 o'clock m. The ship is dying. The bow is deep beneath the surface. The water is no longer climbing. It is arriving. a dark, silent, creeping tide that moves across the forward deck. It washes over the winches. It swirls around the base of the mast. It is a quiet, relentless flood, and then a wave, a swell created by the sinking ship itself. It rises up and washes over the bridge, the very place of command. It sweeps the decks, carrying away the deck chairs, the ropes, the debris. Anything not bolted down is now in the sea. The ship is no longer a ship. It is a steep, black cliff. The angle is extreme, over 20 degrees. People lose their footing. They slide. They fall down the long, sloping deck into the cold, dark water that is waiting below. The screams are now part of the sound, lost beneath the terrible groaning of the steel. The orchestra has stopped. Their brave final hymn is finished. Wallace Hartley looks at his men. He nods. "Gentlemen," he says, "I bid you farewell." They scatter, trying to find a last moment of safety. Wallace Hartley himself is washed away, clutching his violin, an instrument that was a gift from his fiancée. In the first-class smoking room, the room of dark, polished mahogany and leather armchairs, Thomas Andrews, the architect, is seen for the last time. He is not running. He is not trying to find a boat. He is standing. He is standing alone. He is staring at a large, beautiful painting above the fireplace, a painting of Plymouth Harbor, the place the ship was supposed to visit. He is in a trance. He is staring at the dream that he had built, and that was now failing. He does not move. He simply waits, quietly, for his ship to take him. On the bridge, Captain Smith, E.J. Smith, the old Commodore, walks from the wheelhouse. He has done all he can. He has released his men. It's every man for himself, he has told them. He walks out onto the open wing of the bridge. He stands and looks out at the dark, calm, starlit sea. He too is waiting. He too will go down with his command. The time is 2:18 a.m. The ship is no longer a ship. It is a great black tower, a monument of steel angled against the stars. The bow is the anchor. The stern, the back of the ship is rising, higher and higher out of the water, lifting the giant bronze propellers clear into the cold night air. And then the lights, the thousands of golden electric lights that had burned so bravely, so warmly against the dark. They flicker, once, twice, a final weak orange glow, and then they die. They go out, all at once. The ship is plunged into total, absolute darkness. It is now only a great black silhouette against the brilliant cold stars. This darkness is the end. It unleashes the final primal panic. The last remaining souls on the deck realize it is over. The groaning of the steel has reached a breaking point. The sound is no longer a rumble, it is a roar, a sharp, deafening, cracking sound. Like thunder, like cannons, like the sound of a giant tearing. The ship cannot hold the strain, the sheer impossible weight. Somewhere deep beneath the dark water near the third funnel, the great steel keel bends and breaks. The Titanic is tearing itself apart. The stern, the back half of the ship, settles back for a moment in the water. A brief pause, a final breath, and then the flooded bow plunges down, pulling the stern vertical, straight up, a black tower of steel pointing directly at the uncaring stars. It hangs there for a full terrible minute, a final solemn salute, and then it begins its final plunge. It slides smoothly, quickly, down into the dark, cold Atlantic. The great black shape disappears beneath the black, calm water. 220 M. He is gone. And then there is silence, a profound and absolute stillness. The place where the great lighted palace of the sea once stood is now just empty black water. The sea is once again a mirror of glass. The stars which had watched the great slow drama unfold now shine only on the calm, empty ocean. The story is complete, but it is not silent, not entirely. A new sound, a thin, terrible sound, the sound of 1,500 voices crying out in the dark. From the water, a low human wail, a sound that the survivors in the few half-empty lifeboats would hear in their dreams for the rest of their lives. But in our story, we hear it from a distance, like the cry of distant seabirds, a sound that slowly, softly fades. Our focus is not on the noise. It is on the profound peace that follows. The ocean is at rest. The great ship has found its final resting place, 2.5 miles below, in the silent, timeless dark, where it will lie undisturbed for decades, a sleeping giant in a deep, deep sleep. Chapter 5. A blanket of stars. She is gone. The great ship, the mountain of steel and light, has vanished. The ocean, which had been churned into a vortex, is now settling. The time is 2:20 a.m., and in the place where the ship once stood, there is silence, a profound and heavy stillness. The terrible groaning of the steel has stopped. The thunder of the breakup is over. The sharp screams have faded. All is quiet. Well, not entirely. A sound remains, a thin, distant human sound, the sound of over 1,000 souls in the freezing, dark water. It is a sound of profound and terrible sadness, a low collective moan, a wail, like the cry of distant, lost seabirds, a sound that hangs in the cold, still air. In the 20 small, wooden lifeboats, the survivors huddled together for warmth. They hear this sound. It is a sound that will haunt them forever. They want to row back. Some implore the sailors to return, to help. But the boats are too few, and the people in the water are too many. The sailors are afraid that the small boats will be swamped, overturned, and so they do nothing. They just drift and listen as the sound slowly and terribly fades into silence until there is nothing but the stars, and the stars are magnificent. We look up, away from the dark water. We look up to the sky, the same cold, brilliant sky that the ship had sailed under. A sky without a moon, a sky that is so black and so clear that the stars are like a spill of diamonds. The Milky Way is a bright, celestial river of light. It is a blanket, a vast, cold, cosmic blanket of stars that covers the living and the dead equally. It is a sight of profound and silent peace, peace that is eternal. The silence is now complete. It is a vast and heavy stillness. It is the silence of the deep, open ocean. The silence of the cold, empty night. It is the sound of waiting. In the 20 small lifeboats, the survivors, 700 of them huddled together. They are islands of warmth and life in a vast cold sea. They do not talk. They do not cry. They just wait. They are wrapped in blankets, in fur coats taken from their cabins. But the cold is profound. It is a cold that sinks into their bones. The air is so cold that their breath freezes. They look at each other. They are strangers thrown together. First class, second class, third class crew. In the small wooden boats, they are all equal. They are all just survivors. They listen for the sound of a ship, for the sound of an engine, for the sound of hope. But there is nothing, only the soft, gentle lap of the small, calm waves against the wooden hull of the boat. A soft, rhythmic rocking, a gentle cradle, rocking in the deep. Some try to row, to keep warm, to move, but where would they go? They are lost in the middle of the North Atlantic. There is no land. There is no direction. There is only up, the stars, and down, the deep. And so they drift. They drift under the cold, watchful eyes of the stars. Hours pass, or maybe it is only minutes. Time has lost its meaning. There is only the cold and the dark and the waiting. The water is still a mirror. The stars are still a blanket. The world is perfectly and terribly still, a great, silent cathedral of the night. The night is endless, a vast, dark ocean of time. The cold is now a physical pain, a deep, aching numbness. In the small wooden boats, the survivors huddle closer. They share body heat. They have stopped looking. They have stopped listening. They are in a state of shock, a waking dream, a frozen limbo between the disaster that is gone and a dawn that may never come. But it does. Slowly, painfully slowly, the black of the eastern sky begins to soften. It does not become light. It becomes less dark, a deep, dark gray, cold, pale light. The brightest stars begin to fade. The great celestial blanket is slowly being pulled back. The light grows. It reveals the scene. It reveals the truth of their isolation. They are in the middle of a vast, empty ocean. The sea is flat, calm, but it is not empty. The dawn light reveals the ice. They are in a field of it. Icebergs, dozens of them. Great blue-white mountains of ice, cathedrals of frost, floating silently in the gray water. They had been surrounded by these silent phantoms all night. They just could not see them. The light also reveals the other boats, small white specks scattered across the water, some close, some miles away. They are not alone. They are a small broken flotilla, a scattered family of survivors, and then a light, a new light, not the pale gray light of the dawn, but a warm yellow light, a light that is moving on the horizon, far away, too far. A lookout in one of the boats sees it. His voice is hoarse, cracked. "A light," he cries. "A ship," and then another, a green starboard light. It is a steamer. It is coming towards them. It is the Carpathia, the ship that had raced all night through the same dangerous ice field, risking everything. She is here. Hope has arrived with the dawn. The Carpathia stops. Her engines are silent. She is a dark, steady shape against the pale gray dawn. She is an island, a real solid, warm island of safety. A green rocket is fired from her deck. A signal. "We are here. We see you. You are safe." In the small wooden lifeboats, a sound, a weak hoarse cheer, a sound of profound and total relief. The survivors find their oars. Those who are able begin to row. Slowly, painfully, their bodies are numb, frozen, but they row. They row towards the light, towards the ship, towards life. One by one, the small white boats make their slow journey across the gray, icy water. The first boat reaches the side of the Carpathia. Ropes are lowered. Ladders, canvas bags for the children. The survivors are brought on board. One by one, they are in shock. Their faces are streaked with soot, with tears. They are frozen. They cannot speak. They are wrapped in warm wool blankets. They are given hot coffee, brandy. They are led into the warmth, into the light. Out of the terrible cold night, for 4 long hours the rescue continues. Boat after boat comes alongside. The survivors are lifted to safety. The sun is now fully risen. It is a bright, cold Monday morning. The light shines on the vast ice field, on the blue-white mountains of ice, and on the empty patches of water where the Titanic used to be. The wreckage is minimal: a deck chair, piece of wood, a single cork lifebelt. The great ship has vanished completely. The last lifeboat is picked up. The last survivor is safe. Captain Rostron of the Carpathia knows there is nothing more to be done. The 1,500 souls lost in the water are gone. He gives the order. The Carpathia's engines begin to turn. The ship, heavy with its new sad cargo of survivors, turns slowly and begins its journey west towards New York, leaving the vast silent ice field. The Carpathia is a speck on the horizon, sailing west, carrying the story, carrying the survivors back to the waking world. And behind her, the great North Atlantic is at peace. The sun is now high in the sky, a bright, cold Monday. The icebergs, these mountains of white and blue, glitter in the sunlight. They drift silently, majestically. Their watch is over. The ocean has returned to its ancient, timeless rhythm. The story of that night is finished. It now belongs to history. It belongs to the deep. And now our story too is complete. We have journeyed together across the calm sea, through the cold, starlit night. We have seen the great palace of the sea. We have heard its mighty heart beat. We have heard its final sigh, and we have watched it settle to its final resting place. There is nothing left to see, nothing left to hear, only the sound of my voice and the feeling of your own deep comfort. The ocean is at peace, the deep is quiet, and the great ship is sleeping. It is sleeping in a bed of silent, soft silt, 2.5 miles down, a deep and dreamless and eternal sleep. And now it is your turn. It is your turn to join that deep, peaceful sleep. Let your mind release the story. Let the images fade, the lights, the stars, the orchestra, the ice. Let them all dissolve. Let them drift away into the gentle, soft darkness behind your heavy eyelids. You are safe, you are warm, and you are drifting down, like a soft, gentle snowflake into the deepest, most peaceful rest. There is nothing left to do. There is nowhere left to be. The journey is over. It is time to sleep. Good night. Sleep well.